Look, little girl, can we postpone this for another day? It's unsettling having you just sit there.
But my report's due tomorrow.
What's it on?
Why government matters.
Really? It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore, chapped nipples. I'm gonna need a different metaphor to give this 9-year-old. What's your name, ma'am?
Lauren Burgess.
Lauren. My name is Ron Swanson, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the miserable, screwed-up world of local government.
You have mustard in your mustache.
Don't sass me, Burkus. Let's get started. Life, liberty, and property. It's John Locke. This is your lunch. Now, you should be able to do whatever you want to with this, right? If you want to eat all of it, great. If you want to throw it away in the garbage, that's your prerogative. But here I come, the government, and I get to take 40% of your lunch. And that, Lauren, is how taxes work.
That's not fair.
You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains tax. And that, Lauren, is how FDR ruined this country.
Lauren, ready to head back?
Well, I guess it's time for you to head home. I've really enjoyed talking with you. You are, and this is not a joke, much smarter than most of the people who work in this building.
I like talking with you too, Mr. Swanson.
Ron, hang on, I have something for you. This is a Claymore landmine. Use that to protect your property.
Thanks, Ron.
You got it.
Are you Ron Swanson?
I am.
Okay, what exactly did you teach my daughter?
Oh, you must be Mrs. Burkus.
Lauren was supposed to do a paper on why government matters. This is what she wrote.
It doesn't. Well said.
Is this a joke?
No, ma'am. I legitimately believe that. I'm a libertarian.
Oh, that's nice. Well, she is a fourth grader. And fourth graders aren't supposed to have their heads crammed full of weird ideas. They're supposed to do cute reports and get gold stars.
I'm very sorry. I was only...
And you ate her lunch? And you gave her a landmine? Really?
Well, it seemed appropriate at the time.
Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hello, this is Matt Truman. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for sharing with a friend. At the beginning there, that was Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation, the character Ron Swanson. He is by far my favorite television character of all time. It's the greatest. Anyway, today's going to be a good podcast, I think. Today on the podcast, I'm going to bring on a citizen in the city of Huber Heights from Ward 4. And I don't usually do that. I don't usually have citizens come on the podcast. I don't usually do that sort of thing. We talk to elected officials. We talk to folks running for office, things like that. But today's going to be a little bit different. I feel a little bad. I posted a video of her speaking at a city council meeting about water issues. And if you have been paying attention, you know there are some water issues that need worked out. All right. I've talked to candidates here. They've discussed it. If you follow social media, it's been all over social media with main lines breaking. Some folks, I know the city engineer said it was the water softening that was causing that. Other folks believe it's the water pressure. Could it be the water station over on Needmore when they hooked up to date? Who knows? I don't know. I think there's a lot of who knows and things like that. However, when I posted Miss Karen Bokma's video on Brick City Town Hall, I wrote, "Good job by the citizens speaking tonight." And I meant all the citizens because I love when citizens are involved. Whether I agree or not, it is so important to get involved in your city government. It appears there are definite water infrastructure issues. Hopefully those will be remedied soon. And I posted that with her video because she brought a concern about a water issue. Well, unfortunately, you are time limited to speak before your governments. It happened to me recently. I went to a school board meeting and spoke, and we only got 3 minutes there. You guys get 5 minutes in Huber Heights at the city council meeting. But you only had a limited time to talk, okay, like most of everyone does, 5 minutes. So I posted that there, and then there was like over 100 comments, some agreeing, some disagreeing, some really going into what the details were and how this came about and why are we just now talking about it and things like that. So I decided we'll bring Miss Bokma on this podcast to go more in depth. We have plenty of time to discuss this and to talk about it. Now, I don't have an opinion either way, other than I want the citizens taken care of, and I'm a big infrastructure guy. When it comes to government, infrastructure, police and fire, basic city services are the only thing government should be doing. Like at the beginning, I'm kind of like the Ron Swanson guy, limited government. That's who I am. So when it comes to water, it's a very important issue. So what I'm going to do first, we're going to bring Miss Bokma on here in a few minutes, but I want to play her comments from that council meeting. She does not definitively say. She says a lot of things like possible. This could happen. Here's what I know. Here's what was given to me. And I think some folks did not see that, but that's just me. So we'll play her comment from the city council meeting, and we'll do that right now.
Good evening. I'm Karen Bokma. I reside in Ward 4. I'm going to read from my pages this evening so I can stay on track and keep my time to a minimum. I'm here tonight to speak about our concerns with a quality of water issue that unexpectedly presented itself on September 22nd, 2021. I went to turn the water on in our kitchen sink to do dishes, and as I was running the water, I felt I was feeling for temperature control. When I pulled my hand back, I felt that there was something oily in the water. I asked my husband, who had just walked into the kitchen, to turn the water on and see if he felt anything. He said it felt like a fine oil that was in the water. This led us to submitting a sample of our water for our testing at an independent lab that is certified in the state of Ohio. Our thought that was maybe that it was related to the cure-in-place piping, the CIPP, due to the chemical makeup and having our water system open to possible contamination during recent placement, since we all share the same water. During the testing phase, we were advised not to ingest, to cook, or bathe in the water until we had a definitive result of what we were dealing with. So we had to let the process run its course. During that time, it was trying it best with figuring out day-to-day living, not using our municipal water. The toughest part, though, was the wait and see game. The sample actually grew out a pathogen, which is an organism that can cause illness. The people who run the greatest risks for getting sick are people who are immunocompromised, immunosuppressed, our elderly, and children. Having spoken with the lab director multiple times through the course of this situation, I had many questions answered concerning how contaminants enter into our water systems and what we can do to protect ourselves. Quoting the National Center for Biotechnology, for Biotechnology information through the U.S. National Library of Medicine, states the infrastructure, chemical growth of microorganisms, even as microbial communities and drinking water systems lead to outbreaks. Breaks or leaks could lead to low pressure events. When repaired, pathogens can enter our systems. With this being said, the size of the scale is unknown due to the fact our water sample was a snapshot in time. We have no idea how long this has been going on, how many this truly has affected or will affect going forward. What I do know from speaking to the lab director is that this pathogen should not be in our water, period. The Huber Heights Drinking Water Quality Report for 2020 is the most recent report due to EPA guidelines. The report states, the EPA has completed a study of the Huber Heights public water system, source of drinking water, to identify potential contaminant sources in our drinking water supply. According to the study, it was determined that our raw water supply has a high susceptibility to contamination. This determination is based on the presence of a relatively thin layer of clay overlaying the aquifer, the shallow depth of the aquifer, and the presence of potential contaminant sources in protection areas. As you have just heard, we have a high susceptibility to contamination at the beginning of our water source, which is at our aquifer. Adding and opening our water system to introducing of CIPB through our city's existing pipes and the high number of water main breaks that feed our home taps this year is a perfect storm for this very thing to occur. According to the lab director, each time the system is opened and or broken, that increases the chances of contamination to that system. The high number of water main breaks is very concerning to us. Once there is a break in our system, that is wasted treated water escaping and possible contaminants entering in. This isn't just about our home and our water. Shouldn't all the residents have safe, potable without having to be concerned using our municipal water that might make them sick? This has been a well-learned lesson to us personally. We've taken the recommendations seriously and implemented them at our home. I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. And my hope and concern is that this raises awareness about our water in Huber Heights and how concerning this is for us residents. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Karen, thank you for addressing us this evening. Do you have any type of reports or communications with any type of lab techs or reports that you would like to share with council to put on record?
I can, yes, I have it.
Do you have those with you?
I don't have them with me, but
Okay.
I can get them to you.
Perfect. If you could email those to me, I'll email those to our clerk and to all of council as well as our city manager so that we can review some of the information that you had provided to us immediately.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so there was the initial citizen comment that I saw, and I was glad to see citizens up there speaking. And at that meeting, it was the last council meeting. So today is November the 1st, and it was at the last council meeting. And there were several citizens talking about a whole bunch of things. That was just one that I pulled out because that's been a hot issue right now. Folks have been talking about it, and not just Miss Bokma. There's been a lot of folks out there talking about water main breaks. There's been a lot in the city of Heber Heights, and I think it's an issue. I lived in the city of Heber Heights for over 35 years off and on, and I don't remember water issues like is happening now. That's just my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. Without further ado, we're about 15 minutes in. Let's bring Miss Bokma on and let's hear from her, shall we? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Miss Karen Bokma. She's a citizen out of Ward 4. And as I've explained, she had some thoughts she wanted to bring to City Council in Huber Heights. Miss Bokma, thank you for joining Truman's Town Hall.
Well, Matt, I want to kindly thank you for taking the time to have me on.
Well, the reason I'm bringing you on is I think I would like to give you more time to discuss the issue you brought up. I posted a video over on Brick City Town Hall. I know you're not on Facebook, but I thought, and I think that it's great that citizens are getting more involved in this city. And over the past few years, citizens have been getting more involved in this city. And what you were discussing when you were talking about water issues was very important because I have seen through social media, through your discussion, through other discussions I've had here on the podcast with other candidates who are running for office, that there is a water infrastructure issue. And you have explained just that. And I wanted to give you more time here. There was someone who mentioned I kind of threw you under the bus on that. And so publicly, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that to you, but I wanted to give you the time to speak to folks and give them a little more information that perhaps they don't have.
Okay.
You can start at the beginning or start wherever you would like, and we can just go for it.
Okay. All right, then. Okay. Well, me doing this podcast is merely to present facts and dispel the myths, rumors, and assumptions being placed out in our community. First off, I want to let everybody know I have never spoken in front of our council. I've witnessed a lot over the years, but after approximately about 14 months of living with water issues and enduring with everything that has come with it, I was going to wait till after the election to open up this dialogue. But the deciding factor happened to us late Saturday night, which was the 23rd. We had another water main break.
The 23rd of
boiler.
October? I'm sorry.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, October 23rd. That was number 7 for us. And I just said enough's enough, regardless of the timing, because that was just another break to our water system. It was actually a no-win situation for me. If I waited, there would have been those questioning, why did I wait? If I would have proceeded forward in reporting the findings, I would have been accused exactly of what I'm being accused of, and that's playing in the political sandbox. So,
I think folks would want to know, are you bringing these water issues up because you are wanting to sway voters' minds or try to do something political? So I think
that is an absolute no.
Okay.
I'm here to tell my story because it seems like everyone else, between my criticism of my delivery to the assumptions being thrown out there as if it's based in fact, it's not. I thought starting out, I would definitely disperse with the unpleasantries to begin with.
Sure.
First off, everyone's entitled to an opinion. That's a right we have in our country. I draw the line when it becomes a mob mentality rule. Hence the reason why I took myself off of the local Facebook pages 4.5 years ago. It got to be a production of who could spit the most venom the farthest and see how many people they could hit with it. So for me, that's just counterproductive. It absorbs too much energy and too much time. And I think that's valuable to every one of us. If you're going to post, I think that you make sure that you can back up what you're saying with fact, not put opinion fluff pieces out there or rumors that become the truth. I say do your research. Make sure you're not being used as a tool. Ask questions. Don't project. And make sure you know the whole story.
Right.
So the first assumption is with the water situation being a political ploy or stunt. And I say seriously, because the fact of the matter is the concern was not directed at anyone. It wasn't to place blame. It wasn't to call politics into it. It was merely to inform and raise awareness about our water in Huber Heights.
We played your citizens' comments at the beginning of this, and I think folks will understand that you didn't call any political figure out. You didn't call any staff member out. You were merely talking about water issues. I understand that, and I hope others do as well.
While I'm shaking in my shoes at the podium, trying to hit the highlights because most people only get 5 minutes, I thought I had made it clear, but let me reiterate. This had nothing to do with politics and everything to do about a concern and to raise awareness about our water. If indeed it was a political ploy, let's just go that direction.
Sure.
I could have easily made a choice to go straight to the media or the Dayton Daily News. Fact, I would have certainly given a heads up to those I support on the dais so that they could have asked all the right questions.
True.
And fact, everyone on the dais heard the news at the same exact time.
So you didn't contact any politician to tell them, hey, I'm going to be here on such and such a day to talk about this issue. Here are my bullet points. I'll be there.
I most certainly did not.
That's good to know. I think folks would be interested to know that.
There's another statement that was made. It was a text or a PM that was cut and pasted to Andy Hill asking,
Ward 4 representative?
I'm sorry?
The Andy Hill Ward 4 representative.
That is correct.
Okay.
Asking, has she been trying to contact you and have you been ignoring her? I know it's all a lie, but I have to ask, I'm talking about accurate information. Okay, personally, I find that to be funny because seriously, accurate. As far as Andy Hill, the fact is Andy Hill is Ward 4 representative until December 31st of 2021.
Correct.
Fact, I never contacted him to begin with to be ignored.
Right.
What I do find of interest is how PRRs are being handled right now. As I hand-delivered test results to the city of Huber Heights, I dropped it off at Anthony Rogers' desk on Thursday, October 28th. As I said I would, and I found out that a PRR had been requested by a particular resident that morning. As you see, I don't put residents' names on blast.
Certainly.
But I was shown how to maneuver through the system if I so chose to go out and see it for myself and their name. Not only was it requested, but it was fulfilled prior to me arriving at about, approximately 10-ish on the 28th. Then some of that information was placed on the local Facebook page. So to show an accurate, transparent picture, I think showing all the pages would have provided further clarity for everybody to see. So if you're going to post something, I think you should post the entire thing.
So you delivered documents to the city. There was a PRR request, a public records request made by a private citizen who posted that on a Facebook page somewhere. What page was it? Do you know?
I do believe it was Brick City Town Hall.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. So it was on our page. All right. So, but not all the documents were posted then.
No, they were not.
Okay. So we'll have to look into that. All right. Carry on. I apologize.
Oh, no, not a problem. So the request was not only fulfilled. At that point in time, there is something that needs to be pointed out, and I think people need to be aware. If you want to look at the Huber Heights website and you want to go out and actually look at the PRR that was fulfilled, there are PACE analytical sample spec sheets. I say pay close attention and note the sample result analysis start and end dates and times. I think people will be somewhat interested in seeing the time frames that are given on those.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Can we talk about, in your citizens' comments, you discussed a study. How did that take place?
Okay, how it took place is on September 22nd, I go to turn the water on, and I was getting ready to do dishes. The bottom line is I stuck my hand underneath the water, and when I drew back, it felt funny. Felt oily. That was the best word, descriptive word I could come up with, that it felt oily. My husband came in, and I said, hey, would you do me a favor and, run the water and see what you feel? And he drew back the same conclusion, said it feels oily. And I said, okay, I think I'm going to take a sample of this. So I got a sterile bottle and ran the cold for about 5 minutes, so to flush it. And then I proceeded to take it down to kind of a smaller stream so I could actually hit the bottle, and then capped it and put it in the refrigerator. Thursday morning, I started actually making phone calls because that was Wednesday evening, late. And I didn't really actually know what to do with it, to be honest with you. We've been on municipality water my entire life, so I've never been on a well septic. I've never had water tested. Sure. I didn't even know where to begin with it.
Right.
So
it's not something you generally think about when you're dealing with water, right?
True. So I actually Googled and found PACE Analytical over in Inglewood. I called them. The guy wasn't, real helpful. He didn't really want to kind of tell me which way, what directions to go. And I said, well, I don't really know what to do with this. So at that point in time, I hung up and I thought, I think I'm going to have to probably call somebody different. So I called somebody that I knew was in water. And asked him, I said, hey, this is what I got going on. And he says, well, I've got 2 lab names for you. We've got National Testing Labs in Michigan and got Benchmark Labs in Columbus. And I said, okay, well, I think I'll start with Columbus and work my way out.
Right.
So I called Benchmark, was asking some kind of very detailed questions. From that point, the lady was very nice and said, hey, let me get these answers for you and I'll call you back. And I said, sure. About 40 minutes later, the lab director, which is the doctor, called me and said, hey, yeah, I was listening to the conversation and I'm kind of interested in hearing what you have to say. So he started asking me very pointed questions and I started answering them. And he said, well, what I want you to do is I want you to overnight your water sample to us. And I said, okay. So that's exactly what I did. That was Friday when I was talking to them. And he said, yeah, I want you to keep it refrigerated, keep it at a steady temperature until Monday. And then I want you to overnight it. I said, okay, not a problem. So I, got it prepared, took it up with me to UPS, had an ice pack with me, had bubble wrap, and had my box and tape and everything. Took it up there, and they actually sent it out for me. And then they received it in on Tuesday, which would have been the 28th.
Quick question. Some folks may be questioning this. You mentioned a sterile bottle. Not a lot of us have sterile bottles laying around the house. Where did you get that?
Right. Actually, working in the medical field, a sterile environment, you can take basically an unopened water bottle, pour the water content out because that is a sterile environment. And that's what I used. Okay. And I did ask the doctor, if that was okay. And he said, that's perfectly fine. That's probably one of the better things to actually put it in. Okay. So that's what it was in, and that's what it went out in.
Roger that. I know folks would be questioning that. So carry on. You're at UPS, and you send this puppy out.
I sure did. And so I knew it was going to be arriving Tuesday. I knew it was going to be morning. So I waited till about the 10 o'clock mark, called in. They'd already received it in. No problems with it. I had taped the cap up. The doctor said it was, came in, perfectly fine. There was no spillage, no leakage or anything like that, because then they have to decontaminate before they actually start in on testing, the sample. Right. So nothing of that was going on. They started on it on Tuesday. At that point, told me, give us a call on Friday. We might know something. And so that's what I did. That would be Friday, September the 24th. I called the lab. The lab director, got on the phone and said, hey, yeah, we're growing stuff out over here, but not real, not real clear of what it is right now. But can you give us a call back on Monday? I thought, okay, it's kind of frightening when you start hearing that stuff. But that's what so, well, okay, there's not much I can do with it. So that's what I did. I waited till Monday. I called. He says, yeah, I'm thinking it could be the Pseudomonas or the coliform group, E. coli.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. You're trying to process this. It's not easy to process because I wasn't thinking along those lines. Actually, at the beginning of it, I thought it being oily, I thought maybe we might be looking at some type of an epoxy or something like that in the water, because we had just had CIPP laid about a block and a half away from us.
For those of us who don't know the acronym, what's CIPP?
Okay, CIPP is cure in place piping.
Okay, great.
So I actually was having them test for foreign material of like an epoxy or like some type of petroleum. It ends up not being any of that. And then I'm hearing Pseudomonas, and anybody that's worked in the medical community knows all about Pseudomonas, right. It being gram negative, it being antibiotic resistant. And E. coli, of course, you don't want to hear that. That can't be any good.
No.
So I had to wait till Monday to give him a call, and I did that. So from there, it was a day by day. It was call us tomorrow, we might have something. Call us tomorrow, we might have something. Now we're through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're now into Friday when I call, and he says, well, I can tell you what it's not. I'm like, okay. And he says, it's not Pseudomonas, and it's not.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Phew, that's great. Wonderful. It's not coliform or E. coli. Okay, great.
Good.
Yep. And then he says, no, we're looking at something a little different, but I'm going to have to do further testing. Okay, well, you get off the phone and you're thankful that it's not those two things, but it's going to be something. I just don't know what the something is. Now, meanwhile, we're not using our water or anything because that's what he instructed us to not do. Don't use the water because you don't know what's in it.
Certainly.
So
You're following his recommendation.
I am following his recommendation. And this is a gentleman that has a PhD in microbiology. He is registered, certified in microbiology, and he is very specific in bacterias. So did I think it was anything like that when I first started this? No, I did not. So,
and to my knowledge, no one on city's staff has that credential.
No, they do not.
Okay.
He says, give him a call back. So I had to wait over the weekend. We're now 2 weeks into this, and it's getting a little dicey because I'm concerned. What exactly is this, and don't know what it is.
Yeah, who wouldn't be concerned at that point?
I call him on. So we're going into like week 3. I call on Monday, and he says, I think I have a definitive for you. I'm like, okay.
He called you on a Monday, you say?
I talked to him on Monday. Let me look at my times here. Yeah, it was the. Let's see here. Let me get this straight.
No worries. Yeah. The reason I say that is there's folks trying to fill out their own timeline, and it sounds like there's a lot of discussion that you've had with this lab, and it was, okay, we're still in the testing process. We're ruling out certain things. Here it is, the Monday that you're about to tell us.
Yes. So he proceeds to tell me that, and it was exactly the way you're stating it. It was a lot of wait, a wait and see game, wait and see what it grows out.
Certainly.
And then there's more sub-testing. And then they finally come up with Serratia in the Serratia family.
Can you explain what Serratia is to everyone?
As far as I know, I'm no expert. I'm
Certainly.
just reading up on this stuff. But once again, we're looking at a gram-negative rod. It is antibiotic resistant. It's not a friendly bacteria. It is considered a pathogen. And I'm getting this straight from the doctor. 80% of the time, he's telling me there is no pigment that it gives off. There's 20% of the time it can give off a pigment. So if your water
giving off a pigment, what does that mean?
Meaning a discoloration in the water.
Okay. That makes sense.
So most of the time there's no pigment, hence the reason why you can't see it. That's a little concerning when you can't see something. Warning signs of contaminants are usually, particulate matter, there's an odor, there's an off color.
Right.
I asked quite a few questions, including, asking about, through these conversations, I'm asking a lot of questions because, not ever dealing with anything like this. I ask him, reiterating, this is just not our home, correct? And he answered, absolutely not. And we had discussed through the weeks of talking about water main breaks and, where our aquifers sitting and things of this sort. He proceeds to tell me that water main breaks, low or no pressure openings when they're working on our system, are all contributors to contamination.
Does he have a obligation to report this to the city himself, or is this just a private deal that then you are given the information and you're supposed to report?
He is not a mandated reporter.
Okay.
I did ask that question. So I didn't know, what happens once the findings are out. I didn't know if there is a health issue, if they have to go that direction. I had no idea because we'd never been through anything like this, so you wouldn't know.
Right. Yeah, this is very rare.
Yes. He did state that coliform is an indicator organism, for bad contamination, but there could be anything in the water, viruses, fungi, any kind of bacteria. So he says, we're all facing this, and it's how you protect yourself. So, he proceeded to go into some, protection situations because I was asking, I don't even know how to combat this.
Right.
So, he goes into, filtration systems with activated charcoal is one. A UV system would be probably the lowest price out of chlorinators, reverse osmosis, and even like bladder systems. So, he gave these, if you want to call them, examples of how we can protect ourselves. He did say, some of the systems are expensive to install and maintain, and also, having your water tested, especially during breaks and the openings in the system is, probably wise. But I realize not everybody can do that, and it's costly to do it. Meanwhile, I'm calling. I placed a call to an environmental attorney to set up an appointment because I didn't know what our rights were. I've never had anything with, water contamination issues before. And I really wanted to find out, how someone would handle this. This attorney called me back and actually, answered. He was very nice and offered to answer the questions and gave me some general advice. So, so I had a kind of an idea because I didn't know what was going to happen with this, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it's just been, I wasn't really I didn't know what I was going to do with it in the time frame I was going to do it in. The 23rd of October was our 7th water main break and boil advisory. And that's when I just decided that I needed to proceed forward with going to council with this on, as quick as I could. And the quickest I could do that was Monday, October the 25th.
Okay, so when did you initially receive the contamination report from your independent source?
Let me look back. When I actually received I received the verbal over the phone on the 7th is when I received the verbal. But I didn't want to do anything until I actually had a final report. And the final report, I do believe, was on the 15th. Yes, because I actually called them and said, hey, look, we had a time lapse from the verbal, and I still don't have like a final on piece of paper. And I need something, on paper.
Right.
And the lady that actually types these up was very apologetic, was very nice about it, and even said, I'm so backed up, but I will certainly, try to get this to you. And she did. I had it by the end of the day on the 15th.
And then come the 23rd, you had another main break and you said, okay, this is enough. Who knows if the city's fixing this issue or not? I need to go and talk to the city. And you went there on the next council meeting, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And how were you received by city council? I know that evening Mr. Richard Shaw, who's the Ward 1 representative, asked some questions and said, hey, send me the report. And then the clerk of council said, no, send it through me, and I will distribute it throughout council. Have you heard from any council members to talk about this?
I have not.
Not one.
I have not heard from Suez. I have not heard from the interim city manager. I have not heard from anybody since that meeting.
So apparently they don't feel this is a big issue. Huh. Interesting. That's very interesting. Very telling. So after the city council meeting, you went up and spoke. You heard back from no one. Did you send the report that you were asked to send?
Yes. And if I would have known that with the public records request, if I would have known that actually my name and my address wasn't going to be redacted, not that it needed to be, if you're savvy enough, you know how to get that. But it was actually entered into an email from, I do believe, Scott Falkowski to Pam Whited, the director of Suez.
Right.
And that was actually posted on the local Facebook page. So if I would have known that, I wouldn't have asked the lab on Tuesday morning after I spoke on the 25th. If I would have known that that was going to be out there, I could have went ahead and just handed in the lab results on Tuesday, the test results. I could have handed them in on Tuesday to the city. Everybody could have had them, but I didn't know that until Thursday, the 28th, when I had requested it from the lab on Tuesday. Let me back up. I'm sorry. To have them redact my personal information off of the actual test results. Okay. And I got it from them on Wednesday, late Wednesday, and Thursday morning was the first chance I could take it up to City Hall. If I would have known that my information was going to be put out there, then I could have just went ahead and, put a black line, put a black line through my, my phone number at least. But everybody else, already had my name and my address. So that's kind of the way that one rolled out.
What type of, I know there's been some blowback from all of this, from your reporting. What type of blowback are you receiving?
Well, and I'm not out on the Facebook pages, but I do have friends that, care about me carrying this and putting this out there. And what I'm being told is for the most part, I think people are, it's an awareness, and that's really all I wanted to bring to everybody in Huber Heights was an awareness so that they can try to maybe protect themselves as best they can. So I don't want to see anybody get sick. I don't want to see anybody end up with some health issues from it. But I think there's some people out there that
I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say you brought it to the attention of city council and staff, and if they haven't contacted you, the water company hasn't contacted you to get more information, then folks giving you a hard time should stop, because, hey, the city doesn't care. So why are other people caring that you bring this to their attention? I don't understand that personally, but this is how things get done. There are several issues with water around the country that people may not remember, but there's Flint, Michigan is a big issue that folks don't understand, that the city didn't come forward with that. That was private citizens that came forward with the Flint, Michigan issue water, and that's probably the biggest one in the country. And, not saying that this is comparable to Flint, Michigan's water issue, but still, you brought a water issue up, and what is the city doing about it? Do we know? I don't think we know. The city hasn't reported on it after you've reported this, and they have an independent test result. What are they doing about it? Folks, if folks are going to talk chatter on Facebook all the time, but what is actually being done about it? Do we know?
Well, I don't know, because I would think that something like that should be opened up for discussion. Even asking questions, information gathering, but there's absolutely been nothing. So I'm not sure how interested they were to hear from a resident that had that kind of concern. It's not just our home. It's 22 miles of a water system that's had 160 plus water main breaks just this year alone.
Whoa. Say that again. 100 and how many?
160 plus breaks just this year.
In the city, right?
That is correct.
That's a lot of water breaks. And many of them have occurred during the summer.
Yes.
And from my experience, usually water breaks happen, cold, the pipes bursting usually happen during the winter time. And how do you know, can you separate the seasons, or do you not have that information?
I do not have that information, but I can tell you that if you scope that out wider, we've had approximately 325 water main breaks since 2019. So that's approximately one break every 3 days.
Wow. Over 300 water main breaks since they put in the pressure system.
That's correct.
And I heard the city engineer blame it on the water softening. Is that something? Because the way I see it, and I'm just a layman here, I'm just making a guess, right, out of the blue. But the way I see it, it wouldn't be the water softening, it'd be the water pressure. Do you know?
Well, I think when you add the two together, now I'm no expert, but when you take softening and then you are cracking up, or I can use the word softening up, the calcium and other things that are holding the pipes together, and then you're putting pressure through that.
So maybe a combination of both.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
That's just my personal take, like I
sure.
said.
Yeah, we're not experts. We're making assumptions based on, because it was that. It's also, like I mentioned before, it's also they shut down the Needmore plant. And they made a big to-do about that, why we needed to shut that down and connect up to Dayton. So, and I say we because I still feel like I still live in Heber, but I don't. I live out here in Beaver Creek. Anyway.
Right. So, I was hoping that I could have, I had my hand up Monday night because there was some things that were being stated that I felt like were misleading. And, one of the things that was said by our interim city manager, Scott Falkowski, was most of the water main breaks were in the older areas where cast iron was used.
Okay.
And more corrosive soil. So that got me to thinking, sitting there, and the big question for me is, do we do soil testing? And is that another part of the equation with the breaks?
I think they only do soil testing when they're getting ready to redevelop. I don't think they do general soil testing throughout the city just to test soil. I can't speak to the specifics of what the Ohio EPA is doing, but I don't believe they're doing just random soil tests. I think it's only when they're beginning to redevelop areas, and all the redevelopment has been happening up north, to my knowledge.
Well, that is the first I have ever heard in the history of living here that we had corrosive soil. I don't even know where the corrosiveness would come from. So, is there something leaching into our soil? I don't know where that comes from. I'm not sure how that, where that derives from.
Right. Landfills and things of this nature. Who knows? Gas stations. We don't have any oil refineries. I wouldn't know where corrosive soil would come from either.
Our infrastructure has been aging since it was installed.
Definitely. That's a huge issue in the city of Heber Heights. And I hope more folks pay attention to the infrastructures the infrastructure issue that happens in Huber Heights?
Well, our city engineer has been sitting in his seat, I believe, 14 years.
Right.
So I don't know why infrastructure wasn't being discussed then, because that would be 14 years ahead of where we are now. To have instituted some kind of program, to wait till we're at year 59 of a 60-year lifespan on our pipes in certain areas of Huber Heights to start fixing it, I don't know what to say about that, because we can't fix everything all at one time. That's pretty apparent.
Certainly. It takes a lot of money.
Yes, it does.
And they're spending a lot of money on buying real estate, putting up different venues, and not really focused. I mean, the big term is, we spend $2 million on infrastructure every year. $2 million.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, and what are these water main breaks? What are they costing us as taxpayers?
Who knows?
What is the average, what is the average break with everything added in? What does that look like?
Right.
So this should have been, to me, the discussion at Monday night's meeting, instead of being dismissed and given the silent treatment of a concern for a quality of life essential, which is our water.
Well, I think in order to get things done, pressure has to be put on the city council. Pressure has to be put on the city staff by city council in order to get that done. And if they're not reaching out to you, they're not reaching out to your independent contractor, and they're not really looking at this as a serious issue, I think folks need to, maybe it's not a serious issue. Maybe there was some things that they can remedy. Maybe there's a fix to it all. But if they're being silent about it, that's cause for concern in itself. When you see folks just not doing or saying anything, for me, I don't know. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I kind of, that perks my ears.
Well, you would think somebody would be saying something. And I mean, I know with the correspondence on October the 29th that I was reading, apparently Pam Whited had sent an email to Scott Falkowski and actually carbon copied Russ Bergman, stating that there was no brakes on Hubbard or the intersection that included Hubbard the month of September. Yet then in a previous letter, she states that I called up to ask about boil advisory lift cards. Well, the reason why I was calling is because we never received one, and I thought we were still on boil advisory, and I had a neighbor that actually was getting ready to come home from a trip, and I wanted to let her know when she got home whether or not we were lifted or not. That's the reason why I was calling to find out. Come to find out, we actually were lifted. We were lifted on September the 11th. You look at things like that, and I just, there's a lot of misinformation that's, swirling around, and in, trying to question the integrity of our water sample, when I'm hearing from a doctor that works in the field every day, that holds a PhD in microbiology, telling that our sample was flawless. Well, I mean, minus the pathogens, but I'm just saying there was no problem with our water sample and it being received in and being tested. So to me, it might be prudent for Suez to be more concerned how they're handling the samples when they're testing at water main breaks. Do they follow the same guidelines that they're trying to strenuously hold us as residents to? Because I think people will see that the sampling states otherwise. So when you look at the dates, the times, and when they're being turned in and when they're being tested.
So you mentioned breaks on Hubbard. Can you elaborate where these breaks in your neighborhood are happening?
Yes. Well, I mean, we've had, like I said, we were on number 7 as of October the 3rd. And this is the small end of Hubbard. Hubbard goes clear up to Longford, up clear by Monticello Elementary. So
I went to Monticello my entire elementary career, so I'm very familiar with that neighborhood. Yeah.
There you go. We're down at the other end, and we've had, like I said, 7. So we've had actually 8 on our street, but only 7 have affected us with no water being turned off, and them actually, taking the street down, which, is another issue. I believe it was stated in Monday night's meeting that we don't know where all these breaks are going to occur. So to, put pause, or however he stated it, for the actual street program. Well, so I have to back up to April of 2020, because that's when all of this really started. I came home and there was a puddle of water in the middle of the street. It is a nice sunny April day. I'm looking around thinking, okay, no precipitation out of the sky. No one has washed their car. Where is this puddle of water coming from? I finally called Suez and said, hey, this is what's going on. I explained the concept to them, and they sent somebody down. The guy looks at it and he says, yeah, we've seen a lot of this in Huber. And I said, okay, well, what is it? And he said, it's actually a break in the system, and but it's not bad enough for us to fix right now. And I said, okay, and what happens now? And he says, well, the water will eventually go back down, but we will put you on a watch list. They put us on a watch list, and I said, well, okay, what does that what does that mean? And he says, well, it's not about if it breaks, it's when it's going to break and how bad it's going to break. Okay.
8 breaks.
But this is, that's
Since
the
then.
beginning. I'm sorry.
I say since then, there's been 8 water main breaks that you mentioned.
Yes. From that point, then they started coming in. They marked our curbs. I called the city to ask about the curbs. I had assistant city engineer come down to the driveway, had a discussion. Then fast forward from that point in time, now we've got the streets marked with markings all over it. And I had them come back down. I called, said, what's going on? They came back down, and I said, well, hey, are you planning on resurfacing our street? And she was like, yes, that's exactly what's going to be taking place. And I said, well, you might want to hold off in doing this section, because we have an active break. We're on a watch list. And she said, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
So there was no communication.
And so I said, well, you might want to check with Suez, because that's what I was told, and I'm just merely passing the message on. And you might want to, check in on that, because I certainly, I don't want to see the street get paved and then we have more breaks, and then you're digging up a brand new street. So I actually came home to the street had been ground down, and I think that was like September the 16th. Yeah, I think it was like the 16th.
2020?
Of 2020, yes.
So you've been involved with this for a year or more?
Yes, actually 14 months to be exact, yes.
And you've been reporting and doing everything you can to get the city involved, and it seems like they've been silent on this issue.
Yes, well, when you're assured that all is well and just be patient and, we're taking care of things, we try to work with people. We try to believe in what people tell us. But, unfortunately, this has just progressed to this point. And it's not like I haven't talked to the city. It's not like I haven't talked to Suez. It's not like I haven't been, saying anything, because I have. It's just that, when you get all is well, okay, you take that for a period of time. The worst part of it is we got paved. I come home to the asphalt strip for the preparation of the resurfacing the street. They actually repaved it on the 22nd of September of 2020. And then lo and behold, Sunday night on September the 27th, we had a hot water heater installed.
At your house.
This was number 2 in less than 7 years. That's correct. So standing talking to the master plumber about water heaters and, this not being that old and, now we're replacing number 2, he started talking to me about the hardness and water main breaks with hot water heaters and how it can affect the heating element
Right.
And he called it dry firing. It shorts out the element.
Right.
He's also he was telling me, you need to shut your water heater down when it's being, when you have a water main break, so you don't have issues with your hot water heater. Lo and behold, we had that Sunday night on the 27th, we had water main break number 2. This is September 27th of 2020.
2020. Okay.
This was break number 2 for us. Our first break actually was August the 28th, I believe. Give me just 1 second. Let me flip my paper back. Yes, our first break was August 28th of 2020. So the night of the 27th, we just had the hot water heater put in, and it was directly in front of our house. And the pressure was so immense that it actually heaved and bowed where the curb and the street meet.
Oh, wow.
So we had our brand new paved street for 6 days, and they proceeded to dig it up, and it was probably about an 8-foot by 6-foot deep hole to fix that break.
Yikes.
On a brand new street.
So folks have, or I think the city's been talking about, and when they start to pave, they're going to replace. Are they going to replace these, or are they just going to line these pipes?
My understanding is they're just lining because of the cost effectiveness. I'm hearing 25% is what we're saving. So, with Scott Falkowski, saying, we don't know where the breaks are at. Well, for us on Hubbard, since he was using Hubbard as his example, we were on a watch list. They did know we had a break on, a break occurring on our street, continued forward with the street program and the curb program. And then we got to enjoy that nice, smooth, brand new street for 6 days.
Now, when they patched it back up, is it just a big old patch, or do they?
Well, so with the break, here comes the mess. I've actually cleaned the street. Me and my husband have cleaned the street from both sides of our neighbors and our home. So 3 house worth. We have cleaned the street, swept the street, blew up all the dust and everything, collected it. And actually the last time I was so mad because we had already done that 3 other times. I actually called Suez and I said, can you come down here and get this? Because it was buckets full of soot and rock and dirt, silt, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And they did. But
how many breaks outside your house alone?
We've had 2 in front of our house, and then they actually had the paving people come in and try to smooth that out as best they could. With the scabs and everything that's all over the streets. The gentlemen that were working out there said to me, the workers said, well, actually, what we've seen, and I hope this isn't the case here, but what we've seen, you're either going to have a break left or right of where we're working. And they were spot on because that is exactly what took place. We had another break, and it was our next door neighbors. It just went further down, and it went to the right.
Is this closer to Harshmanville or Celestine?
This is closer to Harshmanville, but Harshmanville actually cuts us on both sides of the street. Okay. Because Harshmanville goes around.
Right. So what else can we learn from all of this, do you think? I know there's a lot of folks out there talking, about this timeline. Did you want to go back over and discuss the timeline?
Yeah, I probably should, just to let you know, because this is gonna be really. So let me grab my sheets here and just make sure. I really had this all out, and now I feel like I really fouled it up. I'm so sorry.
No worries. You're not a professional politician.
I'm really not. I'm really not good at this.
You're a citizen.
I'm really trying to carry this as best I can, and I'm not doing too
you're a citizen trying to bring some issues to the city at no fault to, it's no individual person's fault. It's just, as a city, a collective, things need to get fixed.
Yeah, well, you would think so, but there's so much here, Matt. It is just unbelievable how much documentation and how much stuff has happened and how many people I've talked to and everything. It's pretty amazing. So
I think it's remarkable that you've been able to keep all this documentation, and it's important because it will be needed, I'm sure.
Right. September 22nd is the night that actually I caught the clean catch. And September the 23rd is actually when I started checking around, calling around, decided to contact our water guy that I know that works in the industry, and he's the one that gave me national testing labs in Michigan and Benchmark in Columbus. He also was letting me know the cost. The 24th, which is Friday morning, I contacted Benchmark Labs, asking them questions. And that's when the lab director actually, I thought it was going to be somebody else calling me back. The lab director actually called me back, said he was interested in hearing what was going on because he kind of overheard the conversation and decided just to call me directly. So I spoke with him about the timing, and he advised me about the specimen to maintain the temperature of it. I told him it was in the refrigerator. He said, that's great. Keep it there until you actually send it out to us. And that was Friday. He said, send it overnight on the 27th, which was Monday. So I sent that overnight with the, wrapped in ice pack, the bubble wrap and the box. They received it in on the 28th, which was Tuesday morning. I called Benchmark to verify. They received it in. I called about 10. They had already received it in and had already started working on it. And I was told to call back on Friday, October the 1st, where they might have some information to me. So I had to wait, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I was, kind of sweating that. And then October the 1st was Friday. I called Friday afternoon, where I was patched through to the lab director, who proceeded to tell me that he wanted a little more time, but it was definitely growing something. He said it was a yellow-orange shade in the dish. He also said it could be Pseudomonas and coliform E. coli group at that point in time, but he wanted to continue working on it. He told me to call back on Monday the 4th. So that's when I started asking detailed questions about the how, where, and what. The very first question I asked him was, is this just to our home? And his answer was, are you on municipality water? And I said, yes, we are. And he said, then that is a no. It is a municipality water issue. So along with those detailed questions, I got detailed answers. And I even wanted to make sure that I repeated and understood everything that he was saying to me. I have all that documentation and actually have audio of pretty much everybody I've talked to through this entire year, through the 14 months. There's no he said, she said kind of moments. I did call Monday the 4th, October the 4th. I spoke to the lab director again. That's when he told me it wasn't Pseudomonas, it wasn't coliform, but he would need to do further testing. And he asked me to call back on Tuesday the 5th. I did. I called back the 5th, which he, once again, told me to call back on Wednesday the 6th. I had another conversation with him about even more questions because now I'm starting to, do a little more research, which caused me to have more questions. So I called back on October the 6th, which was Wednesday. At that point in time, he said, I'm going to definitely need for you to call me back tomorrow, and I would hopefully have something for you on Thursday. So that was the 7th. Meanwhile, I did call and leave a voice message for Pam Whited on the 6th of October. I didn't get a phone call back. I actually got a phone call back from somebody else later on. But fast forwarding, I did call on October the 7th. I called at 1:33 in the afternoon, and I spoke to the lab director, and his final report was it was in the Serratia group. And he even went into the Serratia liquefaciens, that it's a gram-negative rod, antibiotic resistant. This is when he started talking about pigment versus no pigment. 80% of the time, this puts off a pigment. 20% of the time, it can give off a pigment, but most of the time, it doesn't have a pigment. So you can't see it. There's no discoloration in the water. The warning signs, for the contaminants is the particulate matter, the odor, and the color. So I asked some questions at that point in time about, is this, once again, just to our home? The answer, no. Water main breaks, low, no pressure, and openings to, working on our system. He said all contributes to the contamination. When I asked him about the amount of water main breaks that we had, he was pretty shocked to hear the amount of breaks. And then hearing about the CIPP being laid and that, basically laying our system wide open in certain areas.
Right.
That definitely, he said, could be a contributing factor because it's open for a period of time while they're doing that.
I think a lot of us are shocked at the amount of breaks.
Yeah, well, it is shocking to us too. He did, go into, the safety, details. I don't know if you want me to cover that again.
Go for it.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
So, the filtration system with activated charcoal or a UV system, he said would be probably the lowest price out of a chlorinator, reverse osmosis, or a bladder system. He also said those last three, they're expensive to install and maintain. Also, along with having water testing, especially post breaks and openings in the system when the system's being operated on. So,
right.
Let's see here. I think I've covered. I wanted to make sure I went back and covered those dates because that's actually when I found out was on the 7th, and then on October the 15th is when I called because that was a week later. If I'm not looking at a calendar right this second, but I do believe that would be the next following week. And I did call and ask them if they could send a hard copy because of the time lapse between the verbal that I really wanted to get a hard copy. And they actually did send it to me on later that day, so I did receive it. I've talked to the Suez Plant's ops manager. I've talked to him 2 different times on 2 different occasions, was asking, a lot of questions.
Did you get the answers you needed?
I did.
Great. Good.
So, yeah, I had some questions in regards to the EPA website. I was trying to find some information.
Something happened in the system on my recording. It just went dead. What I was going to say is I know Miss Whitehead from a long time ago. I used to run around with her son and their family. She's a good person. And I think if you would maybe meet with her and give her all this information, hopefully something will get worked out. I truly believe that, but I don't know what your thoughts would be on that.
Yeah, I'm open to having conversations, with people. I'd like to get to the bottom of it. I don't know how much will actually, get done because every time you seem to mention the amount of water main breaks were happening, it's kind of played down. And I don't think that's something that should be played down when I'm hearing from a PhD microbiologist saying that's every break is, getting you closer to contamination. So, and we've had an exceedingly large amount of breaks. So, I know a question that was asked, and I do want to make sure that I cover this, and
Certainly.
That is, why did I not contact Suez or the city regarding the issue on September the 22nd? And the bottom line is that, well, first off, we're not the first to have the issue of oily impurities in our water, but that's not mine to carry. I'm carrying what happened to us at our home. Secondly, after as many conversations as I've had with Suez, city staff, inquiring about the integrity of our water system and our water over the last year, with the assurances all is well and just be patient, and being on approximately 816 hours of boil advisories, which I do believe is close to 40 days, if not a little over 40 days.
Wow. That is outrageous.
It's, that's one of the reasons why I haven't reached out, because, I thought up to that point that we were okay. Apparently we are not okay. And who would feel compelled to call and report after I've been having conversations the last 12 months? It certainly doesn't seem like there's a lot of concern when I'm over here stating the fact. I'm not, this isn't a fluff piece. I'm stating fact.
You went out to an independent contractor, someone who is a doctor in microbiology, and you presented this information and still haven't received any contact from city officials. I can understand your passion and why you're upset. Very much so.
Well, and if anybody would see what our streets look like after these breaks, and the amount of, crud and what the streets actually, the shape of the street looks like, I think that would probably send somebody, up to City Hall within break number 1 or 2. And we've had 8 on our street, 7 that affected us directly with no water. We've learned very quick, how to naturally flush and other whatnots. You kind of get professional, pretty proficient at it.
Sure. I grew up poor, so we had our water shut off quite a bit up in Huber Heights, and we learned different tactics on how to do that. So I'd be pretty good at this if we had that issue. But I make jest, and I know you guys are dealing with a lot, but.
Right. So, I could have very well, instead of taking, and I hate to say the beat down, but taking the amount of flack that I've taken from some, what I could have done, I could have very well just have not bothered. I could have protected our home. But I was asked, from actually a couple different people that know me very well, and know the type of person I am, and asked me, what if somewhere futuristically you found out something negative came of this issue and you could have done something about it and you didn't?
Exactly.
How would you feel? And I know how I feel. And I would have felt horrible. I would feel horrible. Not that I will feel horrible. I would feel horrible by the mob mentality and chewing somebody up that is just merely trying to raise awareness and trying to put this out there. What it does is it trains others who might have issues and concerns in our community not to want to come forward.
Right.
And is that the kind of community we truly want to build?
I hope not.
And is that how we truly want to treat our neighbors?
No.
And I guess that's really the crux of it is, it's kind of, it wasn't easy to go up to City Hall. It really wasn't. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to do the, to do the 5-minute up at the podium. And I knew what I was taking up there wasn't polite and wasn't nice, but I really actually wasn't trying to go at anybody. I was just merely trying to let people know this is what happened to us. So that's really, what I have.
I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to tell the folks that may be listening right now? Is there anything else you want to give to them?
Other than I hope that they, realize the importance of their water, and just because it looks clear doesn't necessarily constitute that there's something not there. And I'm not trying to make something out of nothing, because I didn't want there to be anything. I was really hoping that we would be in the all clear and all would be well. But I didn't think that we would grow something out of our water.
Right. Miss Karen Bokma, you said it all. I appreciate you coming on Truman's Town Hall.
Well, thank you again for having me.